Hello. Today I'm trying to speak Scots and I'm not intending to insult the friendly people from the area that are not at an ball. Because I had a problem to speak something called a dialect because people think you're making fun of them. I'm not. I'm treating Scots as a language whether it's one or not. And let me tell you, it would be a wee bit easier to write this if the Scots didn't treat the very language as the dialect English. I'll come back to that. I shall make one thing different with this video. I shall be reading a pre-prepared text and then you can zoom afterhand. The reason is that I wrote a travelogue after returning from Scotland earlier this year and I like it. Nobody's read it because I could publish it on a Danish homepage. Well, that sounds weird, stupid maybe, but I'm a member of a Danish travel guild, so that's why I put it there. Now you have to listen to the kind of Scots we speak in Denmark. And I'm not going to put it over into English. No summary of the day. Okay, ready. The distinguished members of the Travelers Guild mostly write their contributions in Danish, and I cannot blame them. After a long travel, you may want to see, not hear a single word of English or Spanish or Chinese again for a long time, and surely I write in those foreign tongues. Had it been otherwise, then you could have stayed a field as a true traveller, and night or returned to the bonny flatland of Denmark to pollute our kindred ere you had satisfied your unfulfilled linguistic aspirations. My problem with Scots is that I didn't use it over there through my short Easter travel, and my unfulfilled linguistic aspirations have stayed unfulfilled. So here, guys. It is often said that the Scots didn't speak Scots, nor Gaelic. That is not true. The most part speak Scots, but with southern words. And neither tourists nor Englishmen when I could understand naught of what was said to them. Misfortunately, the Scots also write in English, like a Sassenach. It is just as the Swiss Germans who speak Schweizerdeutsch take either, but High German of Schweizerdeutsch of all tourists and Germans, and who write in standard German so they cannot learn their late too easily. In Scotland you shall hear the Scots all over the place, but you cannot buy a book or magazine in Scots, which is a late result of the fact of Culloden the 16th April 1764, where the Scots army was champed by the brutal Duke of Cumberland, who forbade all things Scots except whisky, because it was a dirty, old, strong shot. The tartan was revived by Walter Scott and George IV, maybe a wee bit too effectively, but apparently the Scots didn't win that a book in Scots can be sold, and all Scots editors too much like the sound of the money to experiment. I flew from Billund to Edinburgh a good Thursday, 2nd of April 2010, and arrived in good weather. The weather report told that it should rain all day long Saturday, so I jumped into a taxi and went straight to the Edinburgh Zoo. We had got a new big house for our families of chimpanzees and a section for all other folks. And I invite their penguins to walk through the yard each day at 2 o'clock p.m. From Edinburgh Haymarket Station, I went by train to the pretty old town Stirling, where I had reserved a room for 3 nights in the Barcelona Highlands hotel, which has 4 stands to blast. It is not cheap, but I like the setting, but 500 yards from the castle. The next day, Saturday, I went in blashy weather to the castle with my umbrella, and then the rain stopped. I'm sure all the Scots meteorologists at once went up at the next madhouse to get them calmed down, because the Scots weather is designed to make them gay, and the tourists too. But this day the weather was grand till 1 p.m., and thus I saw the mighty castle in all its glory. From the castle you can see down to the bridge of Stirling, where William Wallace, Braveheart, routed an English army. Well, then Edward the First, Longshank went to Scotland, and routed William's army. After 40 years or so, Braveheart was betrayed to the Sassenachs by a man called Short. It was not Robert the Bruce. He was taken to London and divided into 4 parts, with his entrails quietly simmering on a wee fire beside him, just to prove how muggle deceived Edward was with him. But Robert the Bruce then winged the English army under Edward II at Burn, just 2 miles south of Stirling. If Wallace had won against Edward, then Scotland might have been speaking Gaelic that day. He didn't like English speakers and killed them off whenever he could. So the Bruce won instead, and if Scotland had united with England and Jacob VI moved to Scotland as Jacob I, then Scotland could have stayed independent, and then the Scots Highlands would have spoken Scots today, and the Highlands maybe Gaelic. But Scots independence died, of course, with the intertwined with Knox and Mary Queen of Scots and all but the other troubles, and then the English took over the Scots king with Orhill's land. Scots history is one long misery. About the castle. My memory had mistrusted me. I actually thought that the secretary of Mary Queen of Scots had been murdered here at Stirling Castle by 56 dwarfs. I once saw the speckle of blood on the floor somewhere, but nay, the gate, quick old man in tartan breeks told me that the deed was done in Holyrood in Edinburgh. So the speckle of blood on the floor is not in Stirling but in Edinburgh. And that was the Earl of Goodwin who did it. It was Mary's no good man Darnley who was waited for it. And then Darnley was killed for a border, but the border had to flee to Denmark, and well, you can see his story, mummy, in the for a while ago. And Mary fled to England hoping for a wee chat with the cutting lease, but he had to wait for 19 years, and then her head was chopped off. All people that visit Stirling could go visit the kirk of the Holy Road next to the castle. And no, there is a near Saint Road. The road is a Holy Cross, even in names, so there's the Holy Road. In John Kirk you will find fine architecture and broad windows and many colours. But is that the most important thing about this kirk? No. You should go there to see the Wittensblad in maybe 50 languages, or my Scots, Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, Cymric from Wales, Danish, Icelandic, Swedish, French, Catalan, Spanish, Romanian, Latin, and all kinds of more exotic leads, such as Maori, Chinese, Arabian, or even English. There's a paradise for people that like languages. The spoken Scots version of English is fit and well hanged, and I've also heard some rather broad Scottish English, maybe even a real McCoy, to the continuum. But I edited some books printed in true Scots and could not but done. I found one book of poetry, Robert Burns, and one comic in half Gaelic, half Scots, and the rest in Sassenach. And I discussed with the lady of the bookshop whether the Scot didn't have any pride left, and she proposed that I file a complaint, appealing to the overrange. But who should listen to opinion outline? If the Scots didn't ask for books in the vernacular, there's not gonna be no books in the vernacular. In the afternoon, I took a bus to the Blood Drummond Safari Park, and you can guess what happened. A whopping split just as I've arrived there, and all the rain that had been spared ere noon now fell on my poor head in one fell swoop. So later the sky cleared again, I could see the place without fearing that the sea lions would swim about in the air over my head, and maybe fell down on me. The next day it was fair weather. You can never know in Scotland, as I said, and it'll get it to the bunny bags of Loch Lomond. But with a Sunday and public transport is fairly limited on Sundays in Scotland. So I took the train to Glasgow and then forwarded to Ballosh, which is spoken with a final sh, Ballosh, where all lochs are spoken with a sound coming from a deep down your treble. Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond in Gaelic, I think. In Ballosh I saw the Loch Lomond Sea Life Aquarium with bilingual signs in English and Highlands. And then I returned to Glasgow to see the big Victorian mixed majesty called Kilvingrove Gallery and Museum. I truly fancy those old museums that are filled to the roof for all sorts of things. In one place an old airplane was hanging in the air over a giraffe and a kudu. And then suddenly the floors trembling as if it were air coming. But it was only the organ that was dusted off and given an opportunity to scare people from their weights. And I stayed for some time and then went back to the Queen Street station and back to Stirling for my last night there. It was raining the next morning, but I didn't care much, of course. I was then returning to Denmark. So, that's all you get. Good Hogmanay to you all.